Hi, I'm Laurent.
Hi, I'm Josh, and welcome to Elite Professional Dog Training.
We're excited to take out about 10 or 15 minutes to explain to you about us, what we do, what makes us different, and why we care. I'm his mentor. And one of the things that we do, what I like to do is when I have a trainer in my facility, I try to groom them to be leaders. So we're expanding to a second location. And so Josh is going to be running the other location. And the reason being is because he understands the culture that we bring, and his care and his passion allows us to expand, but then also bring better services to our clients as well.
Care and compassion is always one of our biggest priorities, right? I want every dog who walks in through our doors to be better off than when they came in, right? So that means the training, but that also means the health, the wellness, the care, right? I want the dog to be happy, healthy, and well-trained by the time they're done.
A lot of times we try to emphasize the two main key components into having a well-trained dog or even a well-trained partner, or just have a lifetime partner. Communication and clear boundaries. Without those two, the relationship with your dog is not going to be complete.
Nothing with dogs and dog training happens through osmosis. We have to show the dogs, right? So everything we want the dog to do throughout our day, we want to clearly communicate that expectation to them, and we want to show them that. Same with the boundaries, right? Any boundary that we have for the dog, we want to clearly communicate so the dog understands. Like Laurent likes to say, dogs don't learn by osmosis, we have to show them.
In many cases, whenever we get a lot of dogs with a lot of behavioral problems, we're typically the second or third trainer that someone has come to. And so a lot of times what we end up having to do is undo all of the bad behaviors or trauma or experiences that the dog has already had. We have to unpeel those layers. And then once each layer is unpeeled, more issues will pop up. Well, that's okay because we're used to doing that. Where we start off first is we start off with bonding with the dog. Typically, we do a consultation to get to know you, get to know your dog, but then also we'll all understand what we're dealing with. Now, the consultation really doesn't speak volumes to a degree because once the dog comes in, then we get to see the true personality of the dog.
Once we have the dog in our care, right, we may start to see different things pop up. That's where we talk the difference between personality and character, right? The dog's personality can be great when you're around your family and your closest friends, right? It's like a person. When you're around your family and your closest friends, you can be your best self, right? Same with the dogs. When they're out in an unsure environment, there's distractions, right? They may display things that are a little bit different. That shows their character, right? So we'll see dogs who are apprehensive, who will snarl and get a little bit aggressive, right? Because they're uncertain. Same as a person in a crowded nightclub, right? They get bumped into, all of a sudden they're totally different than they were around their calm family and friends. It's the same thing with the dogs, right? We bring them into a new environment and we have to help them work through that.
I'm happy to say I am the first dog trainer in America to own an infrared camera. And this is a game changer. The reason being is because now we can pinpoint issues with the dog before we start training. Let me explain. A lot of times we'll get dogs that are aggressive, whether they're reactive or whether they're apprehensive. A lot of times we'll use the infrared camera to see if there is any inflammation because it could be caused from pain. Infrared camera allows us to pinpoint where those issues are. Then we have a cold laser to help reduce the inflammation or reduce the problem. Or if we have a dog that has anxiety issues, our cold laser allows us to release the endorphins and to calm the dog down.
Is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I've seen huge changes in my own personal dog since starting to use the cold laser therapy as well as the thermal imaging camera. He had a CCL sprain when he was 14 months old. Doctors took x-rays, but you can't see musculature issues on x-rays, right? So they assumed, right, they thought it was the CCL issue, but what really would have come in handy was this infrared camera, right? If we had had the infrared camera to use on my dog, we could have pinpointed that issue much quicker. In addition to this, I've started using the cold laser as a form of maintenance on my dog to help with any residual pain. And he has a lot more mobility. He's a lot more active and energetic. I mean, it's night and day the amount of activity I've been able to do with him since I started.
One of the key components as to reason why we use the infrared, when we bring the dogs in for either one of our programs, whether it be the boot camp, whether it be the train and play, it allows us to first have before pictures to make sure that there aren't any issues with the dog. During the training process, if the dog becomes lame or we're noticing a difference in the behavior, we'll take another picture to ensure that there isn't any inflammation, any nerve damage, so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, we have a dog in right now that suddenly became lame. He's a cane corso. We've been watching him for the past 2 years. The past couple days, he started limping. So taking the infrared camera to see where the issue is. Once we find out where that issue is, then we can reduce the inflammation to help at least alleviate the dog's pain. And this is why we purchased this equipment. It's not just for our liking, it's to ensure that the dog's well-being is there.